Hey there, everybody. Welcome to your readings for the week. These are the readings for the week ending. Where'd that go? There it is. December 17th. One more weeks left of the year, and then we're into the new year. I'm kind of excited and kind of nervous at the same time. Which I guess is normal. It's just been really crazy lately. Last year, 2022 was rough, I have to say, for a lot of people. It was really rough. I hope that 2023 is a little bit easier. And I'm going to leave it at that. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our readings here. And we're starting with Darcy. Yes, we're starting with Darcy. Okay, so we continue to have Uranus and Taurus. Uranus continues to be retrograde this week. I think that ends next month, so we're almost there, but we're not quite there yet. Still in a square with Saturn. That is coming, the end of that is coming up, I swear. The end of that is coming up in a couple of months. Actually, Saturn will move out of that square and you'll be free of it. And then the sun is going to move in and take it up for a couple of weeks and kind of be a bastard like that, but it's Aquarius season in a couple of months. So you just have to deal with it just a little bit. Focus is on the past. Saturn's focus is on the inner closet. Okay, I'm an Aquarius. So let's say we're in this together, okay, because it's a planet in my sign and a planet in your sign, and they're just causing an issue. That being said, the past couple of weeks have been a lot of triggers, a lot of processing those triggers. I have talked to other Tauruses going through the same thing, other Aquarians going through the same thing. It has been kind of rough. Luckily, next week, it's right at the end of the week, it starts to move out. So we're almost at the end of that too. I feel like from my personal, let me just say, from my personal experience, there is relief on the other side of the processing. There is clarity and focus on the other side of that processing. There are some things that I'm having a hard time letting go of on the other side of that processing. I just feel like I know personally that I tend to either make it bigger than it is, or I have a really hard time letting go of my own personal feelings about the situation. And I think that that's what trips most of us up is just I want to be mad. I want to be mad. It's not fair. I want to, bang my fists on the desk and stomp my feet, and it's not fair. I want what I want. And life is like, I'm glad you want what you want, but this is what you need to do in order to get it, kind of a thing. And well, I don't like it when it's not exactly the way I want it. Okay. And that's my lesson. And that lesson, whether I choose to learn it or not, makes the whole process more difficult in some ways. Nobody said that fixed signs weren't stubborn. We all are. It's not just Tauruses, it's all fixed signs. So I do see an element of that coming into play, continuing to come into play a little bit this week. My advice is to be open to the lesson, and also be open to the fact that when you have a lot of triggers coming up, it's a lot of opportunity for you to learn to process these triggers quickly so that they're not necessarily you're not emotionally reacting where you don't need to emotionally react, if that makes sense. You don't want your trauma responses reacting to current situations is basically what that comes down to. I also have, or I'm also getting for you, I should say, I kind of feel like there's a possibility of somebody from the past resurfacing. Might be a good thing or a bad thing. might look like a good thing and turn into maybe not. I sort of get the feeling that it's going to be really exciting in the beginning, and then by the end of it, you're going to kind of be like, okay, well, I understand why I lost touch with that one and haven't seen them in a while. I just think that you've grown in two completely different directions, but it's fun nonetheless. I just don't see it as a lasting thing. We'll put it that way. A nice little visit, and maybe till next time, if there is a next time. Enjoy, what you can enjoy, of course, but I sort of feel some triggers coming up around this also. And in all honesty, those triggers could be the reason why you haven't talked in a while. So again, there's processing that needs to be done. But I feel that this kind of processing is more confirmation of your choices, if that makes sense. It's like you've always wondered if maybe you shouldn't have severed this relationship, and now you kind of know, if that makes sense. So that's what I have for you, my dear. And I'm going to move on to Connie. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and kick off the week with the moon, which is always fun. The moon kicks off the week with focus on those you love, moves into focus on your day-to-day schedule. Your day-to-day schedule can be your work schedule, your personal schedule, your family schedule, etc., etc. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're going to start with the moon on Sunday, moving into opposition with Pluto. The moon's focus is on those you love. Pluto's focus on those that support you. This is an ongoing issue that has come up around you a lot, in terms of, I think, your Aunt Jeanette is a really good example of this. Somebody who was just really hardcore there for you, and then all of a sudden, for no apparent reason whatsoever, seemed to sort of change. And in some ways I feel like this triggers a sort of an abandonment route for you when this happens a lot. And I think it's that abandonment trigger that tends to slow you down, if that makes sense. So because if you're reaching out to speak to somebody about something in particular that's bothering you, and they reject you, it just blows that up and makes it a lot bigger, if that makes sense. So I'm not necessarily saying that this is happening with your aunt specifically. It could be something that mimics or something that the family did that really has nothing to do with the family, if that makes sense. As we move into the week on Monday, and we start to move our focus onto the day-to-day schedule, we move into opposition with Saturn and squared with Uranus. This creates a pretty big challenge, actually, luckily only for a day. Uranus is focused on the past, and Saturn is focused on that inner closet. So this little bloop that happened on Sunday, that starts to bring up triggers, and that's really what this whole thing is all about, is triggers. Being that the opposition to Saturn is in Aquarius, so I've been dealing with this for a while, where my sign is completely and totally every day focused on the inner closet for 4 weeks. We are down to this weekend next, and then it's over, thank goodness. It's been brutal, and I have to say a lot of triggers have come up, and I've had to deal with multiple layer triggers, and there's just, and it has really taken me personally at least a week to process through all this crap. And half the reason it's taken me a week to process through all this crap is because I have been unwilling to let go of my anger in this one particular situation. And however I justify it, that justification is an excuse. And really sitting down and looking in the mirror and understanding that is a huge release, because it's my responsibility. I guess I have the right to be mad, but that doesn't help anything, really. Just because I have the right to be mad doesn't mean that it's helpful to be mad. You know, if I have to deal with this situation, or I want to deal with this situation, or I want to be successful, that has to find somewhere else to go because it has no place here. So ultimately, it came down to me saying, okay, I'm not going to be mad anymore, because being mad is not fixing the problem, and it's getting in the way of me being able to focus on fixing the problem to boot. So this is what this whole thing really is about, and anytime the moon comes into it, it just blows it up and accentuates it even more. And unfortunately, with the moon coming into Leo, you are directly involved at this point, and it's emotional because it's the moon. As the moon moves out of your sign on Tuesday, that this T-square is going to continue. So you will have this trigger happy nonsense, for lack of a better word, happening for a few days. Once we get into Wednesday, the moon moves out of there and it's done, and things just, the dust kind of settles a little bit. I tend to look at this not so much as the classic everybody hates Connie, Uber trigger, and then you get upset and can't focus on anything because they've triggered you completely, right? I look at this more as processing through the triggers, that the actual act of the trigger is not as big as it could have been. It's the processing that is taking the time. And I feel actually this is a really good opportunity for you to really pay attention to whether or not you're willing to release that anger or sadness or frustration or what have you. Again, having every right to have it, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to keep holding on to this? Because it's really, is it helping me? If it's not helping you, it has to go. So that's one of the things that unfortunately is going to pop up for you this week in a very unpleasant way, I'm afraid. If it makes you feel any better, I am so right there with you, which I'm not happy about either. So we can just literally sit there with our triggers and be unhappy together, fuck it. 2 tears in the bucket, fuck it. After that's all done, you can just focus on your day-to-day, your schedule. And the good news is that you have a pretty light one through the end of the year. So I am gonna say you get to choose whatever you want in the rest of that. Whether it's fun time, playtime, Christmas shopping, decorating, whatever the hell you want. It's literally up to you. Your schedule is free. It's open. I don't see anything really coming in at that time at all. In terms of, I got distracted because in terms of this lawsuit, there may be an appointment in there somewhere. In fact, that could actually be what's triggering you in many cases. So there could be an appointment or some sort of communication about that this week, which is probably annoying and honestly could be the source of the trigger. So that is what I have for you. And I'm going to move on to Jenny. Okay, so we're going to kick off the week with the moon in your sign because, you definitely want to start off the week emotionally. Come on. Isn't that what everybody wants? And when we start off the week with the moon in your sign, we're going to start it off with the moon in opposition with Pluto, focused on those you love. Pluto focused on those that love you. This is one of those classic cases, which I think we literally talked about this morning, actually. This is one of those classic cases of being a big supporter of others and not necessarily feeling that support from other people. And actually very specifically, I'm sort of seeing that inter-office, if that makes sense. I don't see it as like a big, huge thing. It's just more of an irritation than anything else. But I'm also picking up on an energy or an individual or somebody who has a lot of emergencies. And it's always, I need you right now kind of a thing. And I see this coming up a lot also at the beginning of the week. So, and causing frustrations because you've already got enough on your plate and really you just don't need this, right? Plain and simple, you just don't need to deal with this right now. So it's kind of frustrating. The moon does is in trine right when it comes into your sign, is in a trine with Neptune and Jupiter, which is focused on self. So I kind of, again, to reiterate, I kind of feel that this is more about, not so much about who supports you, but more about how you're supporting yourself. And in some cases, there's nothing else you can do. When you've looked everywhere and you can't find it, you got to look within, which is frustrating and annoying. And I hate being told what to do, but it is what it is. Universe doesn't care if I like it or not. That's not their problem, I guess. As we move into Monday and Tuesday, the moon's T-square, pretty big challenge with Saturn and Uranus, is going to be a bummer. Now, first of all, you're my opposite. So when it's in opposition with Saturn, it's in opposition with Saturn in Aquarius, which is my sign. And I have to say, honestly, that being focused on the internal closet with Saturn's influence, which is very heavy on our responsibility to clean that closet out every now and then, the last few weeks have been a real bitch, put it that way, with a lot of triggers and then a lot of processing those triggers. And in some cases, taking way too long to process those triggers because I choose to be angry, and choosing to be angry doesn't get me to the next step of processing, if that makes sense. So this is what you get to deal with, and this is what you get to work with for those couple of days. That sort of opposition with Pluto, it triggers an emotional response, and the next 2 days are sort of struggling through the processing of that emotional response. And that's just great because that's Monday and Tuesday, right? Let's just go ahead and start off the week like this. The only good thing about starting the week off like this is that it's over by Wednesday and the moon is out of there and he's moved on and you don't have to look at him for another month anymore. And that's kind of the good news. So at the end, in the end, it sort of makes it worth it just a little bit, knowing that once it's done and you can move on with what you got to do. Focus is on your day-to-day schedule this week also. So I do see a little bit of a busy schedule. Not so busy that you can't handle it, but there's like a couple of, I don't know, I see things moving around in your schedule. So I don't know if there's reschedules or something like that, but nothing too major. It's just Jenny's busy, busy bee, it's just, it is what it is. So that's what I have for you, my friend. And I'm gonna move on to Linda. Focus is on relationships, continues to be on relationships this week up until about Wednesday, when the moon moves in your sign and brings an element of your day-to-day schedule into that as well. And then of course it's the moon, so there's an emotional influence, and then however the moon is moving around with others and doing their thing. We continue to have Ceres influencing your sign as well this week, all the way up through next week, and then Ceres moves out of your sign, may move back in, but at this particular point I'm not really sure. So I guess we'll just see what happens when we get there, right? With focus on relationships, and then the moon bringing focus of your day-to-day schedule into this, what this tells me is to be prepared to have to rearrange your schedule for someone else. And because there's an emotional influence, I mean, of course, I'm not seeing like a major, oh my God, somebody needs major surgery right now or something like that. This is There's a lot of worry around it. And especially with that series maternal influence, I just see a lot of what I call racing. It's just going over and over and over about, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? You're going to drive yourself crazy, lady. Just stop, 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 stop. I also and picking up that you tend to overwork when there's something going on that you could be worrying about. In order to avoid worrying about it, you overwork. You're still over putting energy into something. Meditation, you need meditation this week. Number one, you need meditation this week. Otherwise you're going to stress yourself the F out. Okay, and I don't want to see you do that. So that's number one. The moon comes into your sign Wednesday, moves into a trine with Venus and Mercury. And actually, that is a beautiful thing. Venus and Mercury are focused on career. So we're talking very creative ideas, moving into the next steps of your career. There's some projects there that I see are tweaked just a little bit. In a good way. We do have a square with Saturn. Saturn is focused on the mind, and it's also retrograde. So again, that overthinking thing is just, it's not going to be helpful to you. It's really going to get in your way. And this square with Saturn continues into Thursday, finally breaking up by Friday. So when you, and I'm sorry, and the sun also moves into a square with the moon also moves into a square with the sun, which is focused right on the cusp of your long-term goals and your career goals. So specifically your long-term career goals. You're really good at this. Okay, first of all, there's nobody that's as good as you at goal setting, in my opinion, or maybe I'm wrong, but I really don't think that I am. You are absolutely really good at it. My only concern is the Virgo need to perfect things sort of getting in your way a little bit or making you crazy. And I feel like this, again, this over planning, over complicating, overthinking, is the focus is being put in this direction so that you're not thinking about something else that you can't deal with thinking about right now, because again, this causes the worry. So I kind of look at this for you as the lesson in all this is really to not necessarily go to the crazy place that you normally go to, but to find a healthier, easier way to deal with it. I'm not saying that working or focusing your energy on work instead of worry is not a good idea, but you still don't have 100% going into that. And then of course that could create mistakes, and you don't want to make mistakes. I mean, you're a Virgo after all. You don't make them, right? Of course you don't make them because you're thorough. But when you're worried about something, you're not thorough, and that is a problem. So after we get out of all that into Friday, the moon moves out of your sign and things kind of sort of calm down a little bit. There may be some residual things that you may need to address in terms of surface emotions that, over the situation, that are still there. But outside of that, it's a lot easier to focus on what you need to get done rather than worrying about something. So I actually see this more as like, well, an example would be like you take the doctor calls and says, oh my gosh, I think we saw something that we have to look into, and you're like, oh my God, he's got cancer again, and then you take him in there, and then it turns out no, it was just something that they wanted to look at. It's nothing detrimental, right? But your mind is going to go to, oh my God, what could it possibly be, especially after all the things that you guys have been through. So that's what I'm looking at here. It's nothing major, but it is one of those things that's going to make you want to go to that worry place, and you just have to try and avoid it in as healthy way as possible. So that is what I have for you, Linda. And I'm going to move on to Matalyn. Okay, focus continues to be on relationships, although the moon coming into Virgo on Wednesday is going to bring a bit of a focus on your day today's schedule also, and a couple of things actually come up with that. First of all, I kind of feel like I keep getting the words overbooked. So when the moon comes into your sign on Wednesdays, when this all of a sudden just sort of happens, right? And the moon in your sign can always indicate an emotional time or an emotional response. But overbooking yourself or some sort of difficulty in your schedule, it causes an emotional response. You get frustrated, and then other things start to happen. And if you're Daniel, the whole world just freaking falls apart. Okay, thank God you're not a Cancer. Thank God I'm not a Cancer, right? However, the moon's trine with Venus and Mercury. Venus and Mercury are focused on career currently right now. And so I also look at this as, I want to say last I checked, you didn't really have any career goals or in terms of what you want to do necessarily that I'm aware of. I kind of feel like you have a little bit more of an understanding, or at least an idea. And this the moon lining up in this way with these two planets in terms of career goals is good, because it's helpful. It's almost like it gives you an idea of what it is that you want to do, what your heart is telling you your purpose in this world is. The biggest hurdle over that for most people is that really it? Is that what I'm feeling? Is that really it? I mean, if it's pulling you and you keep thinking about it and it's in the back of your head and you're avoiding it like the plague and it's over and over and over again, that is what you're supposed to do. The universe is literally nagging you and saying, oh my God, Matalyn, come this way over here, right? And if you think that that's bad that they're talking to you like that, you don't even want to know how they're talking to me or your mom. Okay. Because we've been like, did you do? I don't know what you're talking about for like 25 years now. The universe is about to give up, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. Now, unfortunately, the sun moves into a square with Mars also, which also continues into Thursday, as the moon moves into a square with the sun as well. The sun is focused again on those long-term career goals, and Mars is focused on how you think. We're still talking about your daily schedule, adding some of your relationships into it. All of a sudden it becomes a big old mess. Like, you kind of had a plan, now you don't have a plan. There's other people saying, well, I don't know if that's what you want to do, maybe you should think about it. That doesn't sound like blah, blah. Again, here's the emotional response is like, well, what the hell? Okay, I'm so excited, I had this thought, and everybody's like, I don't know, and it puts a downer on it. But you know what, just because they can't see the vision doesn't mean that it's not the right vision. Bottom line, my dear, and this took me most of my life to figure out, is it doesn't matter what anybody says. What you feel is right is what you have to go by. Take into consideration advice, but don't necessarily base your decision solely on that advice either. You have to also base the decision on how it feels and your own intuition, and stop questioning every time you get something, because that is getting in your way. You're getting it, take the message and leave it at that. And yes, you're getting messages from your grandma. And yes, everything that happens in that house that freaks you out is your grandma. She is like an octopus on your face, child, and she wants to help you. Let her help you. You know how upset she would get when you wanted to do it all by yourself and she couldn't help you. You might as well just let her do it. It will make her happy, and it will make it easier for you too. So that's what I have for you, my darling. And where am I at here? We're going to move on to Theresa. Focus is on finances. although we're ending that focus on finances and moving into, so it's kind of weird actually. Up until about Friday, you're actually in between focuses. There's nothing that you are, it's kind of in the middle of houses, if that makes sense. And that creates what's called a free-for-all. Basically, you get to choose on whatever it is that you want to focus on, which is always fun, to be able to have that opportunity. As we get into Friday and Saturday, the moon moves into Libra. And unfortunately, when the moon moves into Libra, it moves into Libra in kind of a pretty difficult aspect, for Friday and Saturday, which is going to bring up some challenges. As the moon moves into a T-square with the sun, Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter and Neptune are focused on self. The sun is focused on your long-term goals. And the moon brings your, it kind of brings your day-to-day schedule into it, but also brings your relationships into it at the same time. The easiest possible example I can give you is what every single woman on the planet has gone through in terms of wanting to focus on career and wanting to be super mom or super girlfriend or super wife or super whatever for the people that they love, right? And it's always this, oh, this sounds awesome. I want to do this. I want to be this person. But oh, wait, that would take too much time away from over here. And we just sort of toggle back and forth and never actually do anything. And it's very frustrating. And, and I think, I don't know how I want to say this. I love my family and I love my loved ones and I love expressing that love to them and I love taking care of them. And, yeah, I love all that. At the same time, of all the things that I feel I have sacrificed for them, there are times when it doesn't seem like I'm getting the return from my sacrifice that I feel I should have been getting. And I kind of feel this coming up around you. It's not so much like you want to change careers or anything. I'm not seeing that, but I feel that it has to do with either you may be looking into your career plans for next year, your significant other doing the same. Maybe they're not completely lining up. And at first, it's going to seem like, oh my God, this is going to be detrimental to the relationship. But this is also one of those things that it's very easy, this sort of trigger is very easy to react to, and that's the absolute last thing you want to do, of course, is react to the trigger. Let it kind of sort of run its course and see where it goes before you get worried that everything is going to change and everything is going to end and blah blah blah, if that makes sense. That's sort of an old panic pattern. And that's very common for Libras, especially Libra women, but Libra men do it too. I've seen quite a few Libra men who do this also. So that's one thing, that I am being shown. Now, the moon on, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong day. The moon is also moving into a trine with Pluto, which is actually very helpful, and also moves into a trine, almost a grand trine actually. It moves into trines with Saturn and Mars also. So yeah, you got a challenge, but you also got a lot of really helpful aspects too. And it sort of shows you in some ways how your relationships are very helpful, even if right now there's a difficulty. So I kind of take that as, when you're having a fight with somebody, you're going to see all the things that piss you off about that individual. But if you stop and look at all the things that you love about that individual, it balances it out. And of course, we're talking Libra here, so that balance is really important. When you start to balance that out, it starts to feel a little bit better. You're not quite as scared, you're not quite as, freaked out and things like that. And you can, it makes it easier for you to focus on what needs to be done rather than panicking about what could happen. if that makes sense. So those influences are very helpful with that. The moon's trine with Mars, specifically Mars is retrograde, and Mars focus is on the mind. And so a lot of that craziness goes on in here, and you do want to be aware of that. Because the more it goes on, it starts to spin into this story that is not really relevant to what's actually going on. And you just want to avoid all that. It's embarrassing. When it comes out, it's exhausting. It's a time waster. It just sucks up time. And we've learned over and over and over again that life is short. We should be enjoying our time, not spending it worrying about what's going to happen next, kind of a thing. So that's what I have for you. It's not the best, but I will say this: it won't happen next week. So that's the good news. So that's what I have for you. I'm gonna take a quickie break, and when I come back, we will do Regina. Okay, moving on to Regina. The good news is that the moon stops in Libra right at the end of the week, so it doesn't come into Scorpio this week, which is good. The bad news is that's how you're kicking off the week next week. So you might as well just I don't know, get as much done as you can before you get sidetracked by that BS. Focus is on finances this week. I know that in your readings, I've been seeing a lot of creating financial goals. I want to share with you actually something that I've been going through recently. I'm an Aquarius. We've been focused on the inner closet. We've been focused on triggers. We've had Saturn is showing us our responsibility to that in a very annoying ass way. We'll just put it. But one of those really deep triggers, I think, for me, really revolved around security. And I feel like this may be something that's coming up with you as well. And not necessarily just financial security, but I sort of get this sense of just not wanting to continue to be in the financial situation that you're in, and yet not really knowing what to do about that. And I kind of pick up a couple of different things from that for you. One is, well, I think you have an idea. It's just pulling the trigger on that might be a little bit difficult. It's a little scary. It's a lot of your comfort zone. So that's one thing. The other thing I think that has a huge influence over that is a lot of mindset issues that have to do with current trauma or past trauma or something along those lines. And it's really important, of course, to work through those things. Most of the time, for many of us, we just go, well, that's just kind of how it is. It's how I was raised. There's nothing I can do about it. That's not true at all. You can always take control of that situation whenever you want. It does take work. It is unpleasant, but it's unpleasant being stuck there also. I also feel like you've been seeing a lot of signs lately, if that makes sense. Like I'm picking up on a lot of coincidences that are taking place, which to me is confirmation. It's been moved and seconded by spirit, so you definitely want to pay attention. Or just a lot of really weird things, and that could be coming up from last week and moving into this week also. And these little weird things are making you think. They're taking you out of your routine and making you think about why they're taking you out of your routine. And I think that is sort of part of the drive towards making or creating that change. And one of the things, the reason why I wanted to share my experience with you is that one of the things between you and I that came up a lot had to do with my significant other and his financial situation. And I'm not saying anything bad about either one of our significant others in terms of finances. I just got my whole chair back. What I am saying is that I spent a really good chunk of time being angry at him for not doing what I think he should be doing, for not doing what I told him to do, or I suggested that he did, or however you want to put that. And putting us in a situation that I could have avoided had I done what I told him to do in the first place. And it took me a long time to get there because I really wanted to be mad at him and put the blame on him rather than putting the blame in my own lap where it belongs. So I kind of feel that that may be a struggle or a thing for you as well. And I have to say that in order to see what I needed to do, I had to put the anger down. There was no other way around it. So that may not be what you want to hear, unfortunately, but it is a thing. I've been through this process a million times now. You know, you can sit with the anger as long as you want, but the longer you're sitting with it, the longer it's getting in the way of you actually making any type of progress. So I see once you get through that, it's a lot easier to see the bigger picture in terms of what you need to do and where you want to go with it, if that makes sense. So it's a little scary. But I like to look at fear as something. Fear can either hold you back. It can be a giant wall that you build in front of you so you can't see anything, or it can be something that you can climb on top of so you can see above the obstacles, if that makes sense. And I definitely go back and forth on that. I'm not going to lie. But I choose to climb on top of it and see over the obstacles more often than I do to let it just hold me back. So that's what I have for you. And then moving on to Theresa Sheppard. Hi, Theresa. Focuses on finances this week. The moon, we end the week with the moon in Libra. So we're going to begin next week with the moon in Scorpio. So you might as well just have a party this week and enjoy not having that influence in there. I kind of see, I want to say the word chaotic. I see a chaotic week for you. Mainly the influence of the chaos is sort of trying to get everything done in order to take some time off for the holidays. So I see a week or two actually where you have time to be able to actually stay at home and be with your family. And so it's just trying to get everything done and, you know, all of that stuff so that you can do that. So it's a little bit chaotic. It's nothing out of the ordinary for you. I don't see anything, you know, necessarily coming up that's going to be a challenge for you or a difficulty. I do see some delays, either in information or paperwork that might be kind of frustrating because they're not ready on time like they should be. That's been happening more and more and more these days. And I feel it's been happening more and more and more for you. So that just adds another layer of frustration to that. But in terms of focus on finances, I really don't. I mean, there's a part of me that says yes, you know, it's the end of the year, you're you know, creating your financial goals. But I see this is less about focus on finances and more about improvement of your schedule, improvement of how you work. It's looking at what you've done so far and how you've done it, and keeping the things that are working great and eliminating the things that just are kind of time wasters, if that makes sense. That is also in terms of communication with others as well. You know, we both know that there's ways to communicate that get straight to the point and get work done, and then there's ways that we communicate that kind of make the process more difficult, I guess. And you're, you know, definitely looking at those things as well. Not that you're a bad communicator, that's not what I'm saying. So this is just really all about the phrase is like right on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not quite getting it. That you're on top of your game, and just to make sure that everything that you're doing is on top of your game, if that makes sense. I do see a couple of days in there where you can rest, but I also see you possibly working on those days, even though you're supposed to be resting. I'm not thinking that that's really a bad thing necessarily, as long as you're practicing your self-care rituals and taking time for you. That is really important. So that's what I have for you, my dear. We're going to move on to Amanda. No planets influencing Sagittarius. Well, that's not true. I just totally blatantly lied to you. Sorry, the sun is still in Sagittarius this week. Just kidding. Okay. Last full week in Sagittarius moves on into Capricorn next week. We have the winter solstice coming up next week. I definitely see you making preparations for that. In fact, I see you in your witch's hat and your cauldron going like this. Not sure what that's all about, but I'm sure it's going to be fun. You don't do anything if it's not fun, right? The sun's focus is actually right in smack dab in the middle of your long-term goals in your career. So I would say that a lot of focus is on your long-term career goals this week as well. Not just the celebrations for the upcoming solstice. Although I do see you planning a ritual for the solstice that maybe something that goes on your website or goes live on Facebook or something along those lines. And if you haven't thought of that, it's a good idea. Just putting it out there. So focus on your long-term career goals this week is also really good as well. I mean, obviously we talked a couple of days ago, so I know that you are focused on your long-term career goals. However, I kind of feel, I don't even know how to describe this. It's like, those big wooden block puzzles when we were little kids that had the really big pieces, right? And it's like you keep putting the pieces in, it doesn't fit. And then you take them all out and you put them in, it doesn't fit. And then you take them all out and you put them in, and it doesn't fit. And I see you getting frustrated, every time it happens, and even trying to force it to fit a little bit. And I'm being told by Mama Odie to tell you, you need to take a step back. You need to look at it. There's something missing there. And until you calm your ass down, you're not going to see it. That's what she said. And I'm not sure actually if this has to do with your schedule, if it has to do with what you're creating in terms of your long-term career goals. If it has something to do, I don't think it has anything to do with family. I think it's one of those two. It's something to do with schedule or travel, some sort of travel being planned for this week also. The other thing that I want to say to you is happy fucking birthday, bitch. Oh my God. It is your birthday week. Holy shit. At least I think it is. If I'm totally wrong, save that for next week. Okay. Okay. You have to understand that I have like 5 people in the 17th and the 18th. 19th. Okay. So if I'm early, I'm sorry. I love you anyways. I do see I fucking love you. I literally saw you walking in a slinky back black dress like this going, it's all about me, motherfucker. I fucking love it. I fucking love it. Ah, that's awesome. Enjoy your celebration. And I am going to leave you with that. I love you. And that is what I have for you. I'm moving on to Sheri, my friend. Sheri, we got no planets. And I just fucking did it again. Oh my God. Swear to fucking God. The sun is still in Sagittarius. This is the second time I've done this. So if you want to rewind to Amanda's in front of you, I did it then too. And blatantly lied to her. Now I'm blatantly lying to you. Must be a Sagittarius thing. I don't know. Anyways, the sun is continuing to be in Sagittarius this week and is moving out of Sagittarius next week as we move into Capricorn season. Of course, we got the winter solstice coming up next week. You're thinking about using that solstice for something, get off your lazy butt and do it. I don't know what it is, and I don't have to know what it is. You're thinking about it, just do it. Okay. All I'm going to say about that, because it's happening next week, we might as well be prepared for it, right? But if you've been having this idea or to keep seeing something pop up, don't think about it, just do it. Just get it done. Part of that has to do with charging crystals or stones or something like that. It is a new moon. We are in a new moon. That's not a problem. There's a big thing about charging stones on full moons and how that's the appropriate moon. There really is no appropriate moon. I think it depends on the individual. You could probably actually do a double charge, so maybe cleanse them and charge them for the new moon and for the solstice, and then 2 weeks later charge them again for the new moon. You could do that too. Number one. Number two. Sorry, my God. I don't have the hiccups. And there was some air stuck in there, though, that was like, I don't want to go anywhere, so you can't talk. Anyways, so we're also, Sun is focused on long-term career goals, interestingly enough. And you guys actually, the dynamic that the two of you have going on right now with taking care of all the parents and all of that, I kind of look at this as sitting down by yourself and then sitting down with Matthew, of course, and just kind of sort of looking at the next year and seeing how to do this as easily as possible, or how to get this done as easily as possible for both of you, so that you can, focus on taking care of your parents, which is your jobs now. But you can also, do other stuff too. I actually have a life outside of that, even if it's just a little bit. This situation is complicated, and it's always going to be complicated. And unfortunately, it's very common, in all the years that I've done mediumship, and all the years that I've done insurance, and all the years that I've dealt with the situation of elder people and children. It is always one child and none of the other ones. It is always that way. And why it is that way, I don't know. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't like it, but I'm even in that same boat. So there's nothing that we can really do about it except for our best. And that's really what it comes down to. I also kind of sort of look at it as, I could be resentful and I could be angry, but I don't really want to teach the boys that that's how you deal with elder people, is to be frustrated and angry about the fact that you have to take care of them. Because I don't want to go through that when I'm the old one that they're taking care of. So I'm sort of keeping that, or trying to keep that in my head. Also, I'm hearing a phone ringing. Somebody's obviously using a phone, but somebody's calling you, Sheri. So, and actually, somebody is calling you, Sheri. Your mom has been like, it's like she's knocking, knock, 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 and you've been hearing the knocking too. She's trying to get through. You know why she's trying to get through, and that's why you're not answering the call. It's for your own good, Sheri. Answer her. And that's what I have for you. Love you. Moving on to Peg. Hey, Peg. Happy birthday, Peg. I do know it is your birthday this week, or at least the end of the week is your birthday. And I hope that you have a whole weekend of birthday celebrations planned, or at least something planned for your big day, your special day. I was almost going to do it again, 2 different Sagittarians, and I said there's no planets in Sagittarius this week, which is absolutely not true, because it's still Sagittarius season, and the sun is in Sagittarius. Oh man, I'm losing it officially, I think. 45, and I'm losing it. The sun's focus is right in the middle of long-term goals and your career, which tells me that focus is on long-term career goals this week. I do see an element of you kind of putting that together a little bit, that you have been putting that together a little bit. This week is more Sort of putting the little missing pieces in there that maybe you hadn't put in there yet, and cementing your plans more than anything, because I really do kind of feel like you've got your goals pretty much worked out in terms of what you want to do. It's just what you need to do to get there, if that makes sense. There is, and I want to say this, there's a kitty. Say hi, Peg. Say hi, Peg. Pardon the kitty. He's just gonna get in the way, you know. It's a man thing. I kind of feel there's an element of something you want to do, but you have no clue how to do it, if that makes sense. And I kind of feel like you're stuck on that. And so there's other goals that it's like you know exactly what you need to do. Those are easy, but you're stuck on not knowing which direction to go in with these particular goals, if that makes any sense at all. And I'm told to tell you to meditate, and the answer will come to you. I think it may not be the answer that you wanted to hear. But if you keep asking for an alternate and not getting one, it may just be what it be, if that makes sense. The other thing that I'm picking up on also, I know the end of the week is your birthday. I don't know about you, but I like to avoid anybody that I don't have a pleasant time with on that day, for lack of a better way of saying it. I feel like you're not going to be able to avoid one of these people. It's like they just sort of pop in and take over, and it's really frustrating and annoying. But I also don't see this as being like something that's I mean it's a very short little interaction and then it's over. I think that it's gonna take up the day if you focus on being pissed off about it all day, but it's not gonna take up the whole day if you just kind of move past that and move on to something else. So that's what I have for you. And I'm moving on to Mama Sheri. The sun, this is the last full week of the sun in Sagittarius. Focus is right in the middle of long-term goals and career. So it's time to take a look at those long-term career goals. Man, the past couple of weeks have been just very difficult for you. I know that they've been difficult for me too. And I am very happy to hear that you're doing some classes and you got some things going, and that's good. I feel like, okay, this is something that's in my head and it's been in my head for days, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Okay. It was hard to lose Mookie and Jasmine. It was hard. We know why it was hard. I feel like new kitties, new experiences, that's going to really put a different energy on everything for you. In a way, Mookie and Jasmine were your link to my dad, which is not, it's not true that they're the last link to my dad. I'm the last link to my dad. Me and my children. And you're the last link that I have to him. And to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose my last link before you do. But they also kept that, and not to say that there's a bad thing that they did this, okay, but they also kept that there fresh right in front of your face. And by being able to let them go, and by the way, Mookie has been here for like 2 days. I mean, I swear, I keep thinking it's Emrys and he's there and there's a cat on the floor. I mean, I felt her touch my foot. She has been around, and I know she's been around you too, and that's fine. But I feel that now they were the very last, and now you can move on fresh, if that makes sense. Not to say that you should forget my dad or forget them, Mookie and Jasmine, no. But I just feel like them being replaced is changing the energy in your environment, period. It's creating a different energy, something that feels a little bit more normal to the way you felt before. And that is absolutely okay. And no, you should not feel guilty about it. So just don't even go there, okay? I know you're going to want to go there. Don't even go there. This is what you needed to happen in order to move forward. I can see it now. And of course, I wouldn't have wanted to see it before. But I'm very excited for you having this new adventure and very different experiences, and being able to energetically move in a different direction I'm really excited for you. In terms of your career goals, all that being said, in terms of your career goals, I really have been struggling with that myself. And I have my own things that are holding me back, that I have really been spending a lot of time in the last few weeks focused on and working through and trying to process and trying to eliminate them so I can get off my ass and do what I need to do. And I feel like there is an element of that in there for you. And I'm going to say again, I feel a struggle for you as well as me with how far we want to go with it, if that makes sense. I have a lot of fears around that, and I need to let them go because it's really holding me back from doing anything. And my fears are probably unfounded, for lack of a better way of putting it. So I love you. Enjoy your birthday eve, by the way, because I know that it's not quite your birthday yet, but it is your birthday eve at the end of the week. So we'll just say your whole birthday is the weekend, and I can say happy birthday to you twice. So happy birthday, Eve. And I love you. And that's it. That's what I got. Thank you for coming in and hanging out. And if you want to be on this list, you can be on this list for as little as $10 a month. That's a reading every single week. Fun stuff. Click the link below and get all the info there. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Make it a great week, everybody.